Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we are talking about, as suggested in last week's top 5 video, the top 5 Powercrept ships, at least in my opinion. So, just like today's video, if you want to see your idea become a video, leave it in the comments down below. If you're lucky enough, next week's top 5 video might be your suggestion. Also, for those of you watching, make sure you go down and click a thumbs up on the comment that you would like to see made into a top 5 video, so I can use that when judging what to use for next week's video. Also, we are very close to our 40,000 subscriber milestone. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you are already subscribed, or think you are subscribed, make sure to double check, because as we all know, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people at random from whatever channel it doesn't like that day of the week, because YouTube is, well, YouTube about a lot of things. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get going into the video. So, power creep. If you're not familiar with what power creep is, it simply means that newer items, weapons, abilities, and games get added in as a game, of course, ages along, and it makes the older items, weapons, vehicles, whatever have you, either less attractive, or in some cases it just means that they're worse, because the newer stuff has a better ability, it does what the older thing does, but better. In a lot of cases in today's video, it doesn't necessarily mean that the older ships are worse, it just means that they kind of get outshone a little bit more by the newer stuff. So, let's go ahead and get into the ships, and again, just to clarify, I'm not saying these ships are bad in any way, shape, or form, but certainly there are newer, more attractive things that do what these ships do. Alright, so getting going with number 5, we have the Tier 10 Soviet super large, super duper cruiser, the Stalingrad. Now, the Stalingrad does certainly fit into that category of, yes, there's newer things that can do what the Stalingrad does in some better ways, but the Stalingrad is still a very good ship. One reason why it's at number 5. So, Stalingrad was among the first, well, we used to call them super cruisers back in the day, but now they're large cruisers added into the game all those years ago. And what's happened to Stalingrad is that not only has she have to see, God, I think I'm pretty sure we're getting very close to having double-digit large cruisers now at higher tier. So not only has she gone from seeing just a handful of large cruisers be in the game, now she's been hit with several global nerfs that these newer cruisers have been, of course, accounted for in their design. Stalingrad has seen the fire duration change for large cruisers. Large cruisers no longer get the cruiser fire burn time, but now they get the battleship burn time. She's also seen, of course, the commander rework, which absolutely murdered the ability for cruisers to build into their survivability. Beforehand, if you were a newer player, there was one set of commander skills that you could take for your commander, and that was it. We didn't have multiple skill trees for cruisers, battleships, destroyers, aircraft carriers, and submarines. Everyone had just one set of skills to pull from, which meant that large cruisers like the Stalingrad could take skills that could cut down the burn and flood time, which they already had an excellent burn and flood time in some cases. That got universally changed to now where all large cruisers have battleship burn time, and you cannot build into them anymore. And what Stalingrad used to be able to do is sit bowman on an island, and good luck trying to kill it, especially in competitive when you had a limited number of battleships. And with her excellent armor scheme and the ability for her to just not care about fires, the ship would last for a very long time, because it's a cruiser with battleship HP pool and an excellent armor scheme because Soviet. Now, on top of that, too, Stalingrad had 12-kilometer radar, which today doesn't seem like too big of a deal because so many other higher cruisers have radar now. But back in the day, it wasn't like that. And, of course, she has the Stalingrad guns. Now, this is something that she most certainly still shines with today. Her survivability has absolutely gone through the floor, but her firepower is still very much there. She has her excellent guns with the excellent Soviet AP that will absolutely wreck you from pretty much whatever distance if you show the Stalingrad broadside. So, good luck with that. Like I said, the newer large cruisers do kind of take this fireness into account with their design and their HP and such. And sure, the Stalingrad still does have a very large HP pool and all, but she's very much not what she used to be. Now, she's still a very good ship, one that I do recommend players pick up once they get enough still for her, but she's gone from being just absolute god tier now to just being a good cruiser. See what I'm saying? Like, if you go back and watch some older videos on Stalingrad, she was just insanely powerful. But now she's just good. So, yeah. Going down to number 4, we have the Tier 10 Japanese battleship, the Yamato. Now, the Yamato, she has gone from being the one and the only ship able to overmatch 32 millimeters of armor with her 460 millimeter guns, to being one of, shoot, what was it, 4-6 now? Because we've got the Yamato, the Musashi, Incomparable, and then you add in the super ships right now, too, with the Hanover and the Satsuma. And I'm sure we're going to be getting more and more of these down the road. It's been a very, very slow power creep for the Yamato, but more and more keep coming in. Oh, and the Shikishima as well. I've almost forgot about her. So, yeah, she's gone from being the sole proprietor of the 460mm gun to now, well, she's still the only one with the 460mm gun besides her sister ship, the Musashi, but she now has, well, several other ships to contend with when it comes to overmatching 32mm of armor. It's really funny, too, because before they fully dedicated to adding in more ships that can overmatch 32, the devs kept adding in, 457 ship here, 457 ship here, with, 18-inch guns, but they're 457mm guns and not 460mm guns, so they couldn't fully overmatch the 32mm threshold just yet, to now they seem more comfortable with adding in more and more ships that have this capability, although again, quite slowly so far. And it goes back to the days of people bringing up those old forum posts when the devs said that they weren't going to add in a gun larger than 18.1 inch. But then they did mention maybe with the Germans in the future with the X-Clash, which we sure got with the Hanover with its 19-inch gun, which is something to play. A German ship with the ability to overmatch 32mm of armor. But again, we have so many 18-inch ships and above now, with the Incomparable, with its 10-kilometer concealment and 6 20-inch guns, which is just downright goofy in my mind and such. But yeah, she's still a very good ship. Again, just like the Stalingrad, this is still one of my most played ships and one of the most common ships to see in game. And she still has the fact that she's the only one that has 9 of these guns on her at once. I mean, the Satsuma's got 8, the Hanover has 8, the Incomparable has 6, the Shikishima has 6, and again the Musashi, her sister ship, which historically did have 18.1-inch guns, same class. So they're the two that only have 9, and in many cases, especially with how this game treats double-barrel turrets at times, that's preferable to having 8 or 6 guns. Except for the Shikishima, because boy, the Shikishima shells are crazily accurate, and if you go back to Deadeye Shikishima, when there was basically, well, no dispersion on the shells. That was quite fun, wasn't it? But yeah, still a very good ship, one I would highly recommend you grinding up to, but definitely one that has lost her crown of being the only one that can overmatch 32mm of armor. Alright, going on down to number 3, we have the Tier 7 American light cruiser, the Atlanta. Now, the Atlanta used to be exceptionally remarkable for being one of the very few absolute HE machine guns in the game. You can see where this is going. We have so many more cruisers at Tier 7 and up now that are excellent flamethrowers that, I mean, good God, Mainz, the whole line of them with the Pan-Asian ships, and then we have, of course, just the outright better Atlanta with the San Diego that I don't think very many players originally thought that they could make the Atlanta hull and design work at Tier 8, but then they did, and they gave it sap, and it's even better now than the Atlanta, in my mind at least, because it's got the heel, and it's got, of course, sap shells and such. But again, sap ship versus HE spammy ship, I can see where you could argue that they aren't exactly the same there, but again, just a better Atlanta. I mean, anyone that plays higher tier now knows, I mean, we have so many crazy HE spammers at higher tier, and sure, back in the day too, we had a couple of ships that were quite spammy, but the amount of them has absolutely gone through the roof now at Tier 10, and it's something at Tier 10, at higher tier, I meant to say Tier 7 and up, and they keep on coming. I mean, not that long ago, we got the Austin, which is basically a giant Atlanta with a reload booster that can, well, if you watch my Austin video from Saturday, do some downright goofy things with both its HE and its SAP. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta's still fun. Is she the best at it anymore? I mean, she's still up there. She's still definitely quite tricky to play. You can be very aware of your surroundings, very much aware of your positioning and who is and who isn't around you. Make sure you don't get cut off. Make sure, for the love of God, you have an island to hug, because if you get caught out in the open with this thing, you are going to get absolutely blapped. And again, there's several ships that can HE spam from open water now quite easily, that can island hug better than the Atlanta, that are generally easier to play than the Atlanta. Again, like the Mites, that can HE spam pretty darn well too. So the Atlanta's still a ship that has a place, I'm sure, in every veteran player's heart, but one that there are definitely ships that can do what she does, but better and easier to play. Are they as fun and as giggle-inducing as the absolute mountain of guns on the Atlanta? I don't think so, but, I mean, again, kind of have a whole line of them with the Pan-Asian light cruisers as well, with deep-water torpedoes as well. Alright, going on down to number 2, we have the entire line of German battleships. I mean, yeah, we literally got Powercrept here, boys, by themselves. When the German battlecruiser line came out, they are straight up just better brawlers than the German battleships. And like we've talked about with the German battleship mainline before in the past, they've kind of experienced an identity shift to where if you want to play them for their brawling capabilities, it's a bit of a different experience now than what they were 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, you would probably run a secondary build on your German battleship, especially from like the Bismarck up. You would try to get in close, get your secondaries going, use your good armor to your advantage, punch some other battleships in the face, rinse, wash, and repeat. And then you had those guys that would say, well, I would run a main battery build on my Bismarck, on my FDG, and on my GK, and I, among the other German battleship players, would kind of scoff at them and go, well, why would you want to do that? The secondaries are so good. And now look at me, advocating for putting a main battery build on the FDG in, I think it was Friday's video. Yeah, oh, how the times have changed. Because if you want to brawl now, just go up the German battlecruiser line, because they're straight up better at it. They have more secondaries. You put IFHE on them, especially on like the Schlieffen. Good lord. I mean, you literally have like Spanish galleon number of guns on the broadside of the Schlieffen once you get up there. Slap IFHE, slap Concealment Expert on there, and now you've got secondaries that are essentially out to your concealment range, so when you get spotted by that enemy ship, they're in the danger zone, and you have a ton of these secondaries that reload incredibly fast. Not to mention you have long-range torpedoes on top of that, which is absolutely great. Not that you'll be using those as long-range torpedoes most of the times. I mean, sure, you can chuck them down a alleyway that you think some ship might be creeping down, but you save those as the ace up your sleeve, so when you do get into the brawling scenarios, you can't just throw those torpedoes into their side, and boom, there goes the enemy ship, and now you've just won your brawl. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The only way that they are worse than the mainline German BBs is when it comes to the survivability department. You can pull off a successful brawl at like the Schlieffen probably 2 or 3 times a game, but with like the GK, you can just sit there and tank with the armor and the HP all game long. Also, the counter to that, though, is that how often do you get very long games at higher tier nowadays? Most of you are probably saying not often, because it's really not. I mean, good lord, like I talked about when I was trying to record the FDG video, I had, what was it? I think it was 3 hours of like 7-minute games. Which in 7 minutes, you're not going to be able to get into that many brawls. Maybe 1 or 2. So like there, Schlieffen would have been the better choice because, well, she can close the distance in time. She's a very fast ship. Got the secondaries, got the torpedoes, and definitely does have the HP pool to make it happen at least 2 or 3 times a game unless you really eat some dirt. So yeah, mainline German BBs got power crept by themselves. Kind of funny how that works. Well, they're their own nation, I should say. Alright, going on down to number 1, we have the Tier 9 Soviet large cruiser, the Kronshtadt, the first large cruiser in the game. So for those of you that weren't around back in the day, Kronshtadt and Stalingrad, I believe they came out either like right at the same time, or like Kronshtadt came out first, and like 1 or 2 patches later, Stalingrad came out. These are the first 2 large cruisers ever introduced into the game. And Kronshtadt definitely shows it. You can see with the Kronshtadt that they were still trying to figure out, how accurate should the guns be, how tanky should these things be, because it's a bit of a mess. It's a mess that definitely worked back in the day. Today, I mean, there's just so many better large cruisers you can go with. I mean, you can't even get the Kronshtadt anymore. But I mean, like, the guns, they're Stalingrad's guns, same caliber and such, but they're less accurate, as you can see in the gameplay footage going in the background. They're kind of shotgunny, so they're really good at closer range. And sure, you really only need to land one or two of these shells, and again, they are Stalingrad's guns. They have the same characteristics once they actually hit the ship that you're aiming at, but hitting them from range can be a bit of a chore at times. But yeah, so the guns are a little shotgunny. The armor isn't great on the Kronshtadt. The Kronstadt survivability comes from the fact that it has literally like Iowa HP on a tier 9 cruiser. So you literally have the HP pool of a tier 9 battleship on a tier 9 cruiser in a cruiser slot, with admittedly pretty decent armor. It's not as good as the Stalingrad, and it's not as good as some of the newer large cruisers, but I mean, yeah, sure, it does have decent armor when you can manage to get the shells to hit the portion of the ship that you want it to, like the angled cheek plates and such. But in most cases, especially in today's World Warships, with the amount of large caliber guns that we have at higher tier that do awesome damage, you just get blapped through the nose or through the stern for like 10k. But again, you don't care because you have darn near 80,000 HP in a cruiser. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, Kronstadt's cool and all, but I'd rather take a Gear. I'd rather take a Siegfried. I'd rather even take the I can't remember the name of it right now. The French large cruiser at tier 9. Wow, I really can't remember that ship's name right now. Editing me is going to feel so stupid when he Googles this and finds out that it's whatever it is. But anyway, yeah, I'd rather take so many more of those ships over the Kronshtadt. The only thing that Kronstadt's really got going for it over the other tier 9 large cruisers is that it does have radar, and it still does have, again, a very large HP pool. So, you know, if you're in a situation where there's not a lot of battleships around, and it really is just like you versus a bunch of other cruisers, sure, Kronshtadt would be pretty decent in today's World Warships. But again, they've refined the formula quite a bit more. The other ships, their guns are much more accurate and consistent. And while it is true that, again, they are Stalingrad's guns, they are awesome when they hit, I'd rather have good, consistent hits than, you know, praying for RNG to roll the die and me actually, you know, get these shells to connect and get that good damage off on whatever ship it is that I'm fighting. That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, I mean, hey, it was the first one. They had to figure out exactly what they wanted to do with these things. They've managed to refine them, and I still do enjoy the ship for what it is today. The cold, hard truth is that the other large cruisers we have today, they're more refined. They're, in my opinion, better playing experience, much more consistent. Again, that's my 2 cents. If you love the Kronshtadt, good. I'm glad. I'm happy you do. I'm not over here rooting for the ship to be considered like a garbage tier cruiser or anything. Because again, it's not. Still a pretty good ship when it does work. But again, what we have today is just outright better in my opinion. Alright guys, those are my top 5 battle tier. What the heck? My top 5 Powercrept ships. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I think I need to go take a nap. It's pretty late at night when I am recording this. Sorry if I fumbled myself a few times. This is probably the third time I've had to re-record this, and I'm splicing these together as we go along. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 40,000 subscribers. Once we get there, we will begin our 40K giveaway, just like we've done in the past with our other giveaways for our other milestones. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a wonderful Monday and a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.